take an early look at these conference championships. Not going to dive into like a full game preview right now. Just trying to take a 30,000 foot view of the conference championships. We're going to start with the NFC Championship game. It's presented by Intuit QuickBooks. Your way to money. It's the NFC East rubber match. Eagles and Commanders split the season series. They now play a third game with the Super Bowl on the line. I can't get enough of it. Carmen Vitali joins me again of FoxSports.com to preview these two games. And Carm, our idea for this was just to look at one singular facet of this game, whether it's the biggest, the most interesting, whatever, just the one burning question that we have. And stop me if this is a little too basic, but I just think this game begins and ends with how well the Washington Commanders handle Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Is that oversimplistic? Absolutely. But
sometimes it's that easy.
Yeah. Sometimes it's that easy. And especially when you consider that there have been times that the Washington run defense has been a little suspect this year. I mean, they're aggressively average as far as the metrics go. If you look at the season, 18th in EPA per carry allowed this season. So when you're an average run defense going against a very not average running back, that's concerning.
I saw a friend of the show, our guy Aaron Schatz, the analytics wizard for FTN Fantasy, just puts out some of the best numbers every single week. He was joking on social on Monday that Commanders fans are on his case because people have been calling them the worst run defense in the league. And they've improved over the second half of the season. Congratulations, Commanders. You've improved to 19th against the run by DVOA. For the season, they're 26th in rushing DVOA. And yeah, it is a little simplistic, but when you look at the numbers, I think it's everything about this game. They've allowed 64 explosive runs this year. It's tied for fifth worst in the NFL. They've allowed an explosive run on 13% of their opposing carries, which again is a really bad number. And it bears out when you go back and look at their two games against Philadelphia. Saquon Barkley went for 150 in each of them, and he had 3 explosive touchdown runs, 23, 39, 68. And if you're allowing that type of production, I understand the irony that the Commanders did wind up winning one of those games. But generally, if you're allowing that type of production in the run game, it's going to be a bad combination for you.
And if you look at even just this last game against the Detroit Lions, if the Lions offense doesn't commit 5 turnovers, I'm not entirely sure I'm almost positive the Commanders actually don't win that game. And when it mattered most, it was kind of, it boggled my mind that Detroit didn't continue to go on the ground, especially with a guy like Jahmyr Gibbs, who was averaging 7.5 yards per carry for the game. He totaled 105 yards, 2 touchdowns on 14 carries, and recorded a career-high 5 runs of 10 or more yards. That's all according to Next Gen Stats. That's something that's really concerning, and it's baffling why Detroit didn't try to run Gibbs more, because it was working. He forced 6 missed tackles across all of his touches, and this was his 8th game with 6 or more missed tackles on the season. Who else is really good at forcing missed tackles on the run? Guess what? It's Saquon Barkley. So if you're the Commanders defense and you are missing these tackles against Jahmyr Gibbs, who, yes, is an incredible running back, very shifty, all of this stuff, then I don't have a whole lot of confidence in you to be able to tackle Saquon Barkley, who flirted with the all-time rushing record this year. It's really concerning to me, because you know that Philly will run Saquon until they can't run him anymore. And not to mention, there's another factor in Philly's rushing attack. It's not just Saquon. It's also Jalen Hurts, because before suffering his left knee injury in this last game, Hurts had 71 rushing yards on 6 carries and had a 44-yard touchdown run on the game's opening drive. So this is something like you need to take into account, that you have 2 runners you have to consider here.
And if we're not talking about Saquon and the Commanders' ability to slow him down, then it's got to be this Jalen Hurts situation where he did injure his knee. He looked like a completely different player after that injury happened against the Rams. I looked this up. I was curious. Obviously, the Eagles could have had a better day throwing the ball in that game with a little bit better luck. You know, A.J. Brown drops an explosive gain, a huge red zone play. I believe it was by Dallas Goedert. Gets called back by a Mekhi Becton penalty. But after that injury, Jalen Hurts did not look comfortable passing the ball. Obviously, he was sacked 9 times. He was also sacked 3 times on 4 dropbacks against the blitz. So the Rams did not blitz him often, but when they did, it worked. It worked really, really well because Jalen Hurts was not mobile by the end of that game. I'm curious if Dan Quinn decides to test that in this matchup and say, when you do throw, we're going to come after you. Because if you're talking about trying to slow down Saquon Barkley, here's the thing. He's going to get his yards in this game. But if you can get sacks reliably or get negative plays reliably out of the passing game, Saquon Barkley on 3rd and 14 or Saquon Barkley on 3rd and 9 is a little bit less scary than Saquon Barkley on a normal down and distance with the offense operating in schedule. So I do think, you know, what's Bruce Arians always say? No risk it, no biscuit.
No. Wow.
If you can put if you're willing to pressure Hurts, blitz Hurts, take advantage of this, what I assume is going to be a lack of mobility, and put them behind the sticks, you certainly, I think we got to just let go of the idea that you're going to stop Saquon Barkley, but you can make him a little bit less effective. And when the Commanders' entire strength as a team is an offense that doesn't punt the ball, maybe that's enough.
Maybe. But I think you're right in saying that this is going to be the biggest question mark of the game is how do you limit Saquon Barkley? Can you get creative in doing so? Like you're alluding to, it's not necessarily just stuffing him or tackling him or anything like that. It's putting him in those situations that you don't usually convert when you're sticking to the ground game and kind of forcing Jalen Hurts to have to throw the ball. Though we've seen that work out for them too. The more one-dimensional you can make them, the better.
Completely true. And yet I have this bad feeling that the Eagles could be completely one-dimensional and still be highly successful in this game. Like if there is a part of me that believes that if Jahmyr Gibbs had gotten 25 carries on Saturday night, we're previewing a different game. Ironically, we talked about Ben Johnson earlier in the show. If Ben Johnson had been a little more stubbornly committed to the run, that game maybe goes a different way. And like you said earlier, I don't think the Eagles are going to be afraid to be stubborn, especially with a quarterback that is nursing a knee injury.
Saquon Barkley can he's one of the best at yards after contact and everything like that. So it's one of those things where even if you get a body on him right away, that doesn't necessarily mean bringing him down.
Yeah, it's a scary proposition. Like you can do everything right against a player like Saquon Barkley and still wind up watching him running into the end zone. I think an equally big part of this is going to be the Commanders simply not letting him be on the field. Like this is absolutely a game where your offense is an equal part.
Good thing they go for it on 4th down quite a bit.
Do it more often, guys. I've like anytime it comes up, as long as it's not like 4th and 12, it might be a good idea in this matchup. Plenty more to say about that game as the week goes along. But on the flip side,